the whole key here is to be able to take any active ingredient in oil, any vitamin, any supplement, any pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, cosmetic, agrochemical that's in oil and make it so that it can be absorbed by the water-based bodies of plants and animals.
I'm very excited to be here today and visit with Pressure BioSciences and CEO Rick Schumacher. Pressure BioSciences is actually a company that personally I've followed for a number of years. And I would also say that in the last year, this has become a very exciting story. I think that the company has now developed a technology that has very broad applications. And I think that when you go and look at the press releases, you will see that it is not only hope about the future, but this technology is starting to find real interest in the market. So welcome to visit with us, Rick, and please give us a short overview about what Pressure BioSciences is all about today.
Happy to do so, Eric, and thanks. It's good to be with you and to talk. You certainly got a great knowledge of all of the things that we're interested in here, and I enjoy talking with you. And now I'm enjoying talking with your friends and colleagues that want to learn more about Pressure BioSciences. So we're a publicly traded company in the U.S. We're on the OTCQB. I am used to running companies that are NASDAQ companies. So although we're on the QB, we do run this company as if it were a NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange company. And as such, I need to just tell everybody that some of what I'm about to say could be considered forward-looking statements. So please, as always, do your diligence before thinking about purchasing a publicly traded company stock. Very briefly, my background, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started 4 companies, all publicly traded. I started out at Harvard Medical School as a scientist, spent 13 years studying infectious diseases, got bit by the entrepreneurial bug, left and started my first company, Boston Biomedica, and started 3 others. I'm surrounded by an incredible group. I've hired 1,000 people in my life, and I have some of the smartest, hardest working, dedicated people with me right now at Pressure BioSciences. Please go to our website and learn more about the team around me and my board. They're really terrific people. We have 30 issued patents. These patents range in 3 distinct areas we call pressure cycling technology, or PCT, Barrowfold technology, or Barrowfold, and ultra shear technology, which Eric was kind of talking about earlier on in the introduction, called ultra shear, or UST. Today we're going to talk about ultra shear technology. If you go to our website, pressurebiosciences.com, you can learn a lot about PCT and Barrowfold, and maybe at a further interview down the road, Eric, we can spend some time on those very exciting technologies. But right now, the excitement is all about ultra shear. We honestly believe we're going to change the world with ultra shear. Every day, every week, we get exciting data coming back in, and as you're going to see, we shipped our first product after 6 years of development of this incredible technology. We shipped our first commercial product 3 weeks ago, and we're looking forward in 2023 to make a number of shipments in a number of areas. So what is ultra shear technology? Basically, we have combined very high pressure with very intense shearing. We have an instrument that we've developed, as in our name, Pressure BioSciences. Everything we do utilizes pressure. Pressure is an amazing force of nature. Pressure moves at the speed of sound. It's almost basically instantaneous. Pressure is something that you can basically, like a light, turn it on and off with a switch. It can do many of the things in the laboratory that I as a scientist and my colleagues as scientists would use temperature, heat, and cold, chemicals, pH to do, except pressure is basically instantaneous, homogeneous. Everything in that is under the same pressure at one time, and it can do things like break open cells, and it can unravel DNA. It can do so many things that we go through a lot of trouble doing using other methods. What we've decided to do is not just focus in ultra shear, but we're focusing in one major application of ultra shear, and that application is one that's is in the area of making emulsions. I'll remind everybody that emulsions are basically mixtures of two or more liquids that don't normally go together. Like oil and water is the best example of an emulsion. You mix oil and water, and no matter how hard you mix it and blend it and beat it up, that oil and water are not going to mix together. With ultra shear technology, we're going to kill that old saying that you can't mix oil and water. We can mix oil and water. We can make oil go into water, disappear in water, and stay disappeared. And the reason that's important is that I read recently 44% of all new drug candidates are in oil. So many cosmetics, so many agrochemicals, so many nutraceuticals, supplements are in oil. And if they're in oil, once we ingest them or once we put them on our skin, there has to be a way to get them out of the oil. Otherwise, only 5, 10, 15% of that active ingredient in the oil is ever going to get into our system or into our pets or other animals or plant systems. So we've developed a method that makes oil and water mix, and that's extremely very, very important. So what we do is we don't just make emulsions, we make what are called nano emulsions. What we do simply is that using our machine, we break an oil drop down into hundreds of millions of nano-sized oil droplets. So if the oil drop, and you have, a thousand oil drops, and each oil drop contains an active ingredient, maybe it's vitamin D3, maybe it's coenzyme Q, maybe it's CBD, maybe it's astaxanthin, the most powerful antioxidant in the world. Maybe it's prednisone, a pharmaceutical steroid that's used with a lot of people around the world. But if it's in oil, we need to make it so it's more bioavailable. We can get it out because once we ingest the oil in our system, our body tries to get rid of oil and does pretty efficiently within a couple of hours, gets rid of oil. So we have a few hours to get the active ingredient out. If we can make it more bioavailable, then we have a better chance of not having 10 or 15% of that supplement or that vitamin get out of the oil before we excrete it from our body. But maybe we get 50, 60, 70, 80% of that active ingredient getting out of the oil. So that's what we do. We have 7 issued patents in the area of ultra shear. We've built an instrument. We mix oil with that contains the active ingredient with water, and we put it through our system, and voila, at the end of this, I'm making it very simplistic, of course, at the end of this, the oil has gotten so small that it disappears into the water. And if this is a nutraceutical that somebody is taking, it makes it far more bioavailable for the body to absorb it out before we excrete the oil. Or if it's a topical, it is able to get through the skin much better than it could if it were not nano emulsified. So I'm going to go through just a couple examples, not a lot of science here, just a couple of examples. Upper left, you can see the pharmaceutical end. You can see prednisone. I mentioned that as a steroid that a lot of people use. Retinol on the bottom is a compound that's used in almost all anti-aging serums and creams that are used in cosmetics. The nutraceutical example is curcumin, which is an anti-inflammatory it's become very popular lately, and then neem oil. But if you're taking retinol or curcumin or prednisone, and if it's not nano emulsified, if the oil isn't down to the nano level, if it's not smaller than the size of a bacterium, then you're going to get very little of that active ingredient before it's excreted from the body. If it's nanoemulsified, you're going to get multiples, 3, 4, 5, 6 times the amount that's going to be absorbed into the body. These slides show 2 colors. The purple color that goes down shows how the size, as each time that you go through a cycle, and we put them in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cycles, 12 cycles. Each time we cycle it through our machine, the oil gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And finally, at the end on prednisone, you can see it's about 20, what we call nanometers. So it's a fifth the size of a normal bacterium. The red is showing how clear the material comes. The really interesting thing about nanoemulsions is that when you mix the oil and water, of course, you get this murky color. But as you break the oil drops down to these tiny nanometer oil droplets, it becomes clear. So when you get clear, usually under 100 nanometers, you know the oil is so small, it's effectively gone into water. Now it can be transported throughout the body. This is astaxanthin. Astaxanthin is considered by many people as the most powerful antioxidant on the face of the earth. You can see what it looks like on the left under microscope. You can see the oil droplets, and you can see this dark color. And if you let it sit, the oil and water will separate as salad dressing does and other things do. When we nanoemulsify it on the right side, you can see how clear. This has a red tinge to it, but it's clear, and you can't see the oil through a microscope anymore because it's so small that it disappears. The important thing here is because it's small, several things happen. Number one, it becomes far more stable. So you can go from stability that might be a few days to a few weeks to months, maybe even years. We had CBD, which is a supplement a lot of people use, go to over 2 years in stability and never change once it became a nanoemulsion. So when you get a nanoemulsion, you're going to increase the stability tremendously, but most important, you're going to increase the ability of the body to pull the active ingredient out of the oil and get it in to do its job in your body far better. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 times better than if it were a regular, what we call macro or micro emulsion. This is CBD, same thing. As we make it smaller on the left, you can see it gets clearer and clearer. On the right, that's 60, 70, 80, 90% transmittance. On the right, you can see how it goes up. It becomes very clear. And if you look all the way over, you can see how clear that sample is. I've got a slide coming up to show you pre and post. In fact, here it is. This is CBD. CBD is a compound that comes out of the cannabis plant. CBD is used by a lot of people. There's a lot of people that believe it can help sleep, get to sleep, stay asleep. It can help anxiety, relieve anxiety. It can help reduce the urge for things like smoking or the urge for eating. There's many pain. There's many things that people have written about that CBD can do for us in our bodies. But it comes out of the cannabis plant in an oil. So when you take and you make the CBD oil and you get it ready to be used, it looks like that milky white that you see, conventional process of CBD. That's what manufacturers are putting into the samples, into the cookies, into the gummies, into whatever your lasagna, whatever you're using that's been infused with CBD. That same material, after it's gone through about a dozen passes on our machine, after it's gone through our machine, is on the right. And you can see how clear it is. It's the same sample. It's the same material, except the oil is so small, it effectively goes into water and it allows the light to transmit right through and doesn't block the light. So that means we have a nanoemulsion. It means we're going to have great stability, but most importantly, we're going to be able to get the CBD out of that vial that we're taking, and let it do its work in our body. So this is what you get. All the way on the right side of the slide, you can see 730 days. Material is still clear. It hasn't fallen apart. It hasn't gone back to looking like that opaque sample that we started with. Here's a time course all the way to the left, pre-ultra shear technology. And this is a CBD oil that we have processed. You can see we've gone through the machine once, twice. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to go through the machine a time, and then we go again and again. Every time we go through, we break the oil down to smaller and smaller droplets, which makes it into a nano emulsion. So finally, after, in this case, 6 times through the machine, you can see in the very far left where the oil and the water separated. You can see in the first time when it kind of mixed and it's just pretty ugly. And then all the way to the right on the 6th time, you can see how clear it's become because the oil now, same level concentration of oil, but it's gone into solution effectively. And again, on the right, you can see that the size is about what we call 30 nanometers. And you can see with the blue line that it's about 80% transmission. So it's quite clear and yet and the size of the oil droplet. So whatever is in the oil droplet is now been transferred from let's say 1 million droplets to 100 million or 1 billion droplets. And that means the body's going to be able to absorb it. The whole key here is to be able to take any active ingredient in oil, any vitamin, any supplement, any pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, cosmetic, agrochemical that's in oil, and make it so that it can be absorbed by the water-based bodies of plants and animals. Here, if you take the regular oil and water emulsion that's mixed, that goes into many of the CBD products that are out there, you can see what happens when you mix it with water. It just goes back to what it looked like before you emulsified it. When you use a nano emulsion, a true nano emulsion, particularly using our method of ultra shear, you can spray it into water and it disappears. Slight tinge there, but it basically disappears. That's how you know. So if you're buying a nano emulsion of a vitamin or of CBD, just take and spray it into water. And if it disappears in water, you've probably got a decent product. If it doesn't, but looks like the top, then you don't. You have someone that's chemically added something to make it look like it, but as soon as you add it to water, as if it were getting into your gut, it just falls apart. So we've done CBD, we've done THC, which is the psychoactive part of the cannabis plant. We've done astaxanthin, the world's most potent antioxidant, curcumin, a very potent anti-inflammatory, algae and neem oil, prednisone, a pharmaceutical, vitamin C. Vitamin C is normally water soluble, it just goes in our body and out. There's ways to make it so that it's fat soluble. Once it's fat soluble, we can nano emulsify it, and therefore we can make it so that it stays in the body longer, and vitamin C can do its effect. Retinol or retinoate is this compound that's in so many anti-aging creams and so many anti-aging serums. And we'll talk about that with one of the world's foremost leaders in anti-aging. I have a slide coming up in just a second. So the only thing to say here is that some of you may have heard of our company before, Pressure BioSciences. We've got work that we do in products that we sell to 300 or 400 of the top research labs and biotech and pharmaceutical companies in the world to deal with our pressure cycling technology or our BaroFold. Ultra shear technology is brand new. It's taken us about 6 years to develop it. We think this is going to eclipse very quickly everything that we do in our other two technologies. We're not abandoning them, but we've changed the business strategy to focus 90% of our efforts into ultra shear because we fix a need, and this need is across the board in multiple different disciplines. Whether you've got an active ingredient that's a pharmaceutical or a nutraceutical or an agrochemical, you still have a problem if it's in oil and getting it out of the oil and into the body of the plant or the animal. We fix that problem. So we're putting most of our efforts now, and we think that our shareholders are going to reap the benefits of that as early as really as every month goes by in 2023 and thereafter. Some of the recent news. In December, we had three very exciting press releases. Please go to our website and pressurebiosciences.com and read about them. December 22nd, we talked about a strong Q4. We've had some weak quarters for the last 2 or 3 years. We gave guidance that Q4 2022 was going to be a very strong quarter, and we have not modified that. But we also said it's going to be followed by extremely rapid revenue growth in ultra shear in 2023. We also shipped our first product made, so we know that it not only works in the lab, but we made a product and we shipped our first pilot product for $75,000, and we're working on getting we have other orders in. We're working on getting those out the door, and these are all nano emulsifying CBD. To start, because that's the area where a lot of people are very interested in getting far better bioavailability. And the third was this retinoate, and we'll talk about this retinol or retinoate nanoemulsion, and it exceeded all performance expectations because it's a true nanoemulsion using our method. I have a couple of slides coming up about that with Dr. Denese. She's October 26th. We introduced Dr. Denese that we're working together, and we're going to start making some UST ultra shear based products in 2023. Anti-aging is going to be the first one. She already is a leader in the world in anti-aging, but we're going to get, as she calls it, a new generation of anti-aging using a retinol molecule that's been truly nano-emulsified. Therefore, it becomes much more available to the skin. But we also announced back in October that her group and our group are working on a hair replacement therapy. We believe that with our technology, we can get through the scalp, which is very tough to get through. She believes we can get through the scalp and has a formulation she wants to try. So we announced that we're going to be working on a hair restoration project, and we hope to have it out on the market by the fourth quarter of this year, by December. I will mention that Dr. Adrienne Denese is an MD, PhD, and she sold over 50 uh, uh, $500 million worth of skincare on QVC in the US and in Europe, in Canada, over $500 million. And so she has that avenue, that access to the customer. She has over 500,000 customers. She and we are now partners, and we're working together on not only the anti-aging using our method and her formulations, but we're working on a hair regrowth. And so we also announced that we have several contracts that we've already signed in ultra shear that we'll be filling in the first quarter and throughout this year. This is Dr. Denese. She gave me permission to give 3 quotes from her. The first one was in August. It was in a press release. She said, "I couldn't be more excited at the prospect of teaming up with PBI and putting their ultra shear platform's remarkable breakthrough nanoemulsion effectiveness to work in new generations of skin products." She is the queen of cosmetics on QVC, and she has a great following of hundreds of thousands of customers, and she's going to be on there soon, we hope, talking about her new generation powered by ultra shear technology. The second testimonial she gave is, "The most requested addition to our product line is an effective intervention for age-related hair loss in both men and women. I believe that ultra shear, our method, will enable us to introduce our first ever hair loss prevention restoration product within a year." This was October. So we're still on target to have this out by the end of this year. There are a lot of groups that have tried to develop hair replacement and hair loss prevention. None of them really work very well. A lot of the reason is it can't get through the scalp, it can't get to the dormant hair follicle. She believes strongly, as we do, that we should be able to do that with our technology. And the last slide here is that we sent her, she said, "Rick, we need to look at retinol because this is the key to anti-aging. It's the key ingredient in everybody's anti-aging. If you're a multi-billion-dollar cosmetics company or a smaller one, the key is retinol for anti-aging, to get it into the skin to reduce and remove the effects of aging in the skin." And she said, "Let's see what happens when you nano-emulsify retinol because it's an oil-based molecule." We did. We sent it to her, and she was astounded. She said, "I have never encountered such a profound tightening and wrinkle reducing effect as I found with the PBI nanoemulsified retinoate serum." She said, "Even compared to my best, her best, already effective serum." She sells lots of these serums. She does tens of millions of dollars in sales a year, and a lot of it is anti-aging. She said the PBI product far exceeded anything I've ever seen. Nanosizing with ultra shear really works. A lot of people have gone to her. A lot of people have talked about nanosizing things. Very few of these have ever worked. We have a real method. We're a bunch of scientists and engineers. We developed this instrument for breaking open cells to free DNA. And then we changed course and said, this has got to play in cosmetics and other areas. And we made that change about a year ago. And she is one of multiple people now that are saying that they've never seen anything like what we're giving them on nanosizing their oil-based active ingredient. So I'd end by saying we've got something here. I've done this 3 times. I've had 3 prior NASDAQ companies. Pressure Bio, we made it a goal this year to move back up to either New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. We have a long-term collaboration with Dr. Denese and working in skin care and hair replacement. We have 3 contracts in the CBD area. We have multiple other contracts that we believe will be signing shortly over this year. We've changed and pivoted the company. We're looking at a totally new company, the new PBIO. The new PBIO is going to be a company that we believe in 2023 and beyond will be rapid revenue growth to profitability, moving back up to a national exchange and doing deals across the board from pharmaceutical all the way to agrochemical, cosmetics, and nutraceuticals. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much, Rick, for such a powerful presentation. Just 2 quick questions at the end. So obviously you have a great scientific background from Harvard, and some of your people who joined you are also from MIT, so clearly the highest floors of science. Now, your ultra-shear technology, are you the only game in town?
We believe we're the only real game in town. We get this question a lot. We have people saying, "Oh, I've heard this group that has a nanoemulsion and this group has a nanoemulsion." There are very few. There's only 2 other companies I'm aware of that are trying to get to a nanoemulsion by combining high pressure and shearing. The others are using sonicators and methods that we don't believe can really get to a high quality. And so far, we've been proven nanoemulsion. So far, we've been proven right. So I'm not going to say we're the only game in town. The others are trying. Honestly, we haven't found anybody yet that has successfully done what we've done. We get a smaller particle in a shorter period of time for less money than anybody else that's been trying it. There aren't many in the game. There's, like I said, there's only 2 other companies we're aware of that are combining what we have, but we have 7 issued patents. 2 of them are key. 1 patent is on the valve. Imagine that, Eric. Here we are in 2023. Valves have been around for centuries, and we got a valve patent in the US last year. We've got it in China, we got it in Japan, we got it in Australia, and right now it's working its way through Europe. And we feel very confident that we'll be getting the patent approved in many countries in Europe this year in 2023. So it must have something different if in 2023 you're getting a patent on a valve, and it does. We understand that other people are having trouble with their valves clogging. Our valve was developed by 2 absolutely absurdly smart, hardworking guys. One is from basically MIT. One is from MIT, and the other is from basically MIT of Russia. And these guys make 1 + 1 = 10 when they work together, and they came up with this idea. And what happens is it does an incredibly effective job at shearing the oil down to very, very small droplets of oil, but it has an anti-clogging aspect to it that I won't go into, although some of it's in the patent that people can read, not all of it. And it will not clog. So our chief competitors are, someone called us today, rather large company called us today and said, "We're having trouble with a valve that's clogging." And we said, "Well, we have a valve that doesn't clog as part of our instrument." So yeah, there's always competition. It keeps you on your toes. It's okay. But right now, we think we are by far, we've seen nobody in the world that's come close to what we've been delivering.
No, it really appears that you are on the forefront of this technology. And clearly, as you said, you have several patents issued, which is also great. Going forward, for the foreseeable future, just to mention that your economic model is at the time is not to sell the machines, but you are going to be processing the materials for your customers, which then also means that you will have recurring revenues. And the more successful they are, the more successful you will be. So, and I think it's fair to say, based on our conversations, that the commercial interest in this is really staggering, and that we can look forward to an exciting 2023 as you now move to close some of these new opportunities.
I would agree with what you just said. It is exciting. There are major opportunities. They're multi-billion-dollar markets. that all have the same problem. Imagine taking your ibuprofen or your acetaminophen, 200 milligrams, and only getting 20 milligrams of it out. Your headache, your ache would never go away. That's called bioavailability. And in the areas that we're talking about, uh, anything in oil right now, the bioavailability runs between 4 and maybe as high as 30% in some cases. It's all different, but you're in the 5 to 15% for most of the things, that active ingredients that are in oil. We believe we can get that to a much larger percentage. So much larger will get out into the body because we make it effectively water soluble. We do have patent protection. We do.
Well, I think we end on that, Rick. So thank you so much for doing this introduction of Pressure Biosciences. And I very much look forward to shorter updates as some of these things unfold over the next several weeks and months.
And they will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.